Check.
Sige, let's wait for the others kasi mukhang konti pa lang tayo. Okay, let's start. Dalawang section ba yung nandito? Ayun, si Mary Caroline. Anong block nyo, Mary? IS1. Sino pa yung mga nanditong block? Check ko nga dun sa monitors group natin. Mary Rose? Wala. Robert, wala din. Nika. Mary Caroline and Gia. So, sinong block lang ngayon ang nandito? Anong block? Nickname. Ay, hindi pa na yung nakikita dito. Ayan. So, 2BSA 1S. Nandito ba? Wala. Okay, 2BSA IS1. Tapos, 3BSA IS3. Wala. 3BSA IS2. 3BSA 3. 3BSA IS4. Ito wala kasi ano to ibang schedule siya. So, nandito pala kayo lahat. Pero, yung attendance natin, no, hindi man lang nangalahati. Ayan, nasa ano pa lang kasi tayo. Anong 60. So, ano nangyari sa iba? Any news? Monitors, ano nangyari? Sige, let's start na lang. Later na lang natin pag-usapan. Share ko lang yung screen. So, we are now on the final topic. Isa siya sa mga final topic natin for this semester. So, it's global monetary system. So, we will talk about money and prices for different territories. So, the monetary system, so, it comes from our money. Nakikita na ba yung screen, guys? Sorry, hindi ko pala natanong. Nakikita yung screen? Oh, okay. So, good evening everyone. So, let's talk about money and prices in the long run. So, this is one of our last topic in our final period. So, this is the monetary system and it comes from money. So, as we all know, money is the set of assets in an economy that people regularly use to buy goods and services from other people. So, sabi nila, diba, money makes the world go round because without money, you can not buy anything and you cannot also live in this world. So, what are the functions of money? So, we have different functions of money. This can be used for medium of exchange, unit of account, and store of value. So, let's define the medium of exchange and the functions of money. So, a medium of exchange is an item that buyers give to sellers when they want to purchase goods and services. And it's readily acceptable as payment. So, when there is an exchange, diba, we have two parties involved in this transaction. One is the seller and one is a buyer. So, they just want to have an exchange in return for the purchase of goods and services. So, what do you mean by functions of money? So, we can have it as a unit of account. So, this is the yardstick people used to post prices and record debts. And we have also the function as a storage. So, this is an item that people can use to transfer purchasing power from the present to the future. So, you can, dito naman sa store of value and unit of account, it doesn't necessarily mean na if you have the money, diba, i-exchange mo siya agad. Sometimes, you save it for future value. So, other functions of money is liquidity. So, this is with which an asset can be converted into the economy's medium of exchange. So, since money is very liquid, so it's good as cash, it can easily convert, okay, into different assets. And what are the kinds of money? Number one is commodity money. So, it takes the form of a commodity with intrinsic value. So, before, no, kasi right now, ang money na alam natin is the paper. Yung nahahawakan natin na pera ngayon. Na may mga nakalagay na tao dun sa papel. So, before, the form of money is gold, silver, and even cigarettes. So, they considered it as a commodity money. And we have also the fiat money. So, it's used as money because of government decree. So, these are the coins, currency, check deposits. So, in fiat money, it does not have intrinsic value. Kasi, when we talk about gold, diba, silver, so it has intrinsic value, meaning when you want to purchase something, diba, in a different territory, gold is really valuable. So, in fiat money, for example, our currency, you need to exchange it to the territory's currency before you use it. So, if you use fiat money, it doesn't have intrinsic value. So, ayun, when you, parang napanood ko yata dun sa, sino ba yung mga nanonood sa Netflix? So, may mga, may mga use talaga ang gold kahit ano pang century ang lumipas. Talagang, siya, it has a very intrinsic value. Meaning, lahat ng tao ay magpapakamatay para lang makakuha ng gold. So, next is money in the U.S. economy. So, currency is the paper bills and coins in the hands of the public. So, ito na yung alam natin ngayon, the currency. And we have also demand deposits that are balances in bank accounts that depositors can access on demand by writing a check. So, that would be under demands deposit. So, let's see the figure 1 money in the U.S. economy. So, class, someone is, is trying to go in our session. So, when I started the session kasi, I cannot accept the students na. That's why, I sent a live stream, okay, so that if hindi ko na siya ma-accept, pwede kayong manood doon. So, yung mga monitors, pakisend na lang sa group nyo kasi nagpa-pop up pa rin siya dito sa ating session. Okay? So, yan. So, we have billions of dollars on y-axis and we have different cubes here. So, M2 is for savings deposits, small time deposits, money market mutual funds. And we have also M1, which is demand deposits, traveler's checks, and other checkable deposits. So here we have our case study. So this is a historical case study. So in 2001, there was about 580 billion of US currency outstanding. So that is $2,734 in US currency per adult. So who is holding all this currency? So we have number 1, currency held abroad and currency held by illegal entities. Then we have also the Federal Reserve System. So it serves as the nation's central bank. So ano ba yung function ng Federal Reserve System? Federal Reserves, or tinatawag natin na Fed. So, it is designed to oversee the banking system and it's also the regulatory body of money in the economy. Then, The Fed was created in 1914 after a series of bank failure convinced Congress that the United States needed a central bank to ensure the health of the nation's banking system. So, with the help of Federal Reserve System, na-create, okay, itong Fed na to kasi nagkaroon ng mga fraud, okay, mga bank failures, and nagkaroon ng mga loopholes sa ating regulations. Kaya, na-convince, okay, ng Congress na kailangan natin ng central bank. Okay, para yun yung mag-monitor ng buong financial health or capacity ng mundo. Okay? So, next is the structure of Federal Reserve System. So, number 1 is the Board of Governors. Number 2 is the Regional Federal Reserve Banks and the Federal Open Market Committee. So, in the future, no, if you are given the chance, sana makapagtrabaho kayo sa Federal Reserve System. Pero yan, sobrang higpit kasi makapasok dyan. Pero, ito yung mga high officials position. Kadalasan mga influential people ang nagkakaroon ng position dito sa Federal Reserve System. Okay, next. So, the Fed's organization. So, in the Fed, it is run by Board of Governors, as I mentioned, and it has 7 members appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. So, parang, similar to the democratic system, di ba? So, mayroon din tayong tinatawag na organizational structure dito sa Federal Reserve, and it is run by the Board of Governors. And it will be appointed by the President and confirmed also by the Senate. So, among the 7 members, the most important is the chairman. So, the chairman directs the Fed staff, presides over board meeting, and testifies about Fed policy in front of congressional committees. So, this is the organizational structure of Fed's organization. So, we have 7 members appointed by the President, confirmed by the Senate, and serves staggered 14-year terms so that one comes vacant every 2 years. And the President appoints a member as a chairman to serve a 4-year term. So here, it is similar to the previous slide. Ayun, summary lang yun. So, the Federal Reserve System is made up of the Federal Reserve Board in Washington, D.C. and 12 regional Federal Reserve Banks. So, in United States, they have 12 district banks, 9 directors. So, it composed of 3 appointed Board of Governors and 6 are elected by the commercial banks in the district. So, the directors appoint the district president, which is approved by the Board of Governors. So, next is the Federal Reserve System. So, here is the map for the Federal Reserve districts. So, we have Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Richmond, Cleveland, St. Louis, Atlanta, Dallas, Kansas City, Minneapolis, and San Francisco. So, in Federal Reserve Banks class, the New York Fed implements some of the Fed's most important policy decisions. So, this is the main office of the Federal Reserve Banks. And in Fed, we have the Federal Open Market Committee. So, it serves as the main policy-making organization of the Federal Reserve System, and it meets approximately every 6 weeks to review the economy. So, the Federal Open Market Committee is made up of the following voting members. So, we have 6 members of Board of Governors, President of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and the presidents of the other regional Federal Reserve Banks, for vote on a yearly rotating basis. And we have also the monetary policy that is conducted by the Federal Open Market Committee. So, in monetary policy class, they are the ones who are governing and monitoring the money supply by the policymakers in the central bank. So, that's how strict it is. So, I know you watch Netflix all the time, 'di ba? So, alam niyo naman kung gaano ka-strict ang monetary policy, lalo na sa central bank. So, the money supply refers to the quantity of money available in the economy. So, they are the ones then who decides whether they can create, more money if ever na kailangan ng supply sa economy. And they are the ones also who can dictate that the supply of money is enough, 'di ba, for the global needs of the economy. So, we have 3 primary functions of Fed. Number 1 is that they regulate banks to ensure they follow federal laws intended to promote safe and sound banking practices. And they act as a banker's bank, making loans to banks and as a lender of last resort. So, yan. Lalo na ngayong pandemic, no? Kung mapapansin nyo, ang daming nag-loan sa central bank dahil sa nangyaring pandemic sa atin. So, it conducts monetary policy by controlling the money supply, which I mentioned a while ago in the previous slide. And we have also the open market operations, which is the money supply is the quantity of money available in the economy. So, in open market operations class, we need to increase the money supply by the Fed buys government bonds from the public. So, I know you're familiar with government bonds. So, this financial instrument is less riskier than stocks because it offers guaranteed interest rate, fixed interest rate, and the bonds came from the government. So, example here in the Philippines for government bonds. So, you can search it. Kasi meron tayong mga pinaka magagandang government bonds dito. Pero ang pinaka sikat is the Pag-ibig MP2. So, that will fall under government bonds. And to decrease the money supply, the Fed sells government bonds to the public. So, see what happens in the open market operation. So, if there is an increased money supply, so the Fed buys government bonds from the public. If they want to decrease the money supply, the Fed sells government bonds to the public. So, it is inversely proportional. If you want to increase the money, you buy. If you want to decrease, you sell. So, banks and the money supply. So, ano kaya nangyayari kapag pag dumadami yung supply sa bank? Diba? So, we all know that banks can influence the quantity of demand deposits in the economy and the money supply. So, nare-regulate din yung mga banks. Okay? So, when you graduate here, at maging accountant ka in the future, you can also explore the banking industry. So, you can learn a lot regarding the monetary world. Okay? Money supplies, credit interest rate. So, yan. Kapag nagtrabaho kayo sa banks. So, usually, banks have reserves. So, reserves, these are deposits that banks have received but have not loaned out. Okay? So, yung reserves na yan, importante yan sa financial analysis ng isang company. Why? Because this is the most crucial point, yung paglalagay ng reserves. At dapat kapag naglagay ka ng reserves, it holds, sabi dito, a fractional of the money deposited as reserves and lend out the rest. So, dapat may nakaano ka lang talaga. Parang the word itself, diba? Reserva. So, may nakatago kang reserva in case na magkaroon ng emergency sa bank. Okay, para in the future, mabayaran mo yung mga liabilities and yung mga customer mo. So, next is the reserve ratio. So, the reserve ratio is the fraction of deposits that banks hold as a reserve. So, pag mas mataas yung reserve ratio, ibig sabihin, kumbaga, mas trusted na mag-invest ng pera sa'yo. So, if ever gusto nyong makita, no, kung sino-sino yung mga bangko or mga financial institution na talagang magandang pagtaguan ng pera, hindi talaga malulugi. So, you need to check the reserves. So, money creation with fractional reserve banking. So, the money supply is affected by the amount deposited in the bank and the amount that banks loan. So, we need to have a deposit into a bank that are recorded as both assets and liabilities. And the fraction of total deposits that a bank has to keep as a reserve is called the reserve ratio. So, loans become an asset to the bank. So, this is an example of trial balance account that shows a bank that accepts deposits, keeps a portion of a reserve, and lends out the rest. So, it assumed a reserve ratio of 10%. So, for example, how can you record, for example lang, nasa bank. So, you record the deposit between the assets and liabilities. So, you have deposits, okay, and then the reserve is $10, loans is $90, the total assets and total liabilities is 100 peso. So, ito example lang naman, hindi naman kailangan na 10 lang talaga yung reserve or 10% lang, okay, ng deposit. So, this is just an example. So, when one bank loans money, that money is generally deposited into another bank. This creates more deposits and more reserves to be lent out. So, please take note of this, ha. Ayan. Kasi baka akala natin yung bank, hindi rin siya nangungutang. So, lahat ng mga financial institution, no, may utang sila. Ayan. Walang financial institution na walang utang. So, ang bangko, umutang din yan sa another bank. So, it creates more deposits and more reserves to be lent out. So, when a bank makes a loan from its reserves, the money supply increases. So, tama naman. So, how much money is eventually created in this economy? So, this is the money multiplier. So, the money multiplier is the amount of money in the banking system generates with each dollars of reserves. Ayan. So, this is the magic of the money multiplier. So, sabi ko nga, when you loan in another bank, okay, the money multiplies. So, the money supply is 190 because it is both recorded as an asset to both banks. Okay? So, the money multiplier is the reciprocal of the reserve ratio. So, the formula for this one is money multiplier is equal to 1 over R. With the reserve requirement of R is equal to 20%. So, this is just a sample of a reserve requirement. So, it depends upon the territory. Okay? Or the country. Kung ano yung regulatories ng reserve nila. So, the multiplier is 5. And we have the Fed's tools of monetary control. So, we have 3 tools in its monetary toolbox. This is just a summary. The open market operations, which I discussed a while ago. Changing the reserve requirement. This is the reserve ratio. And changing the discount rate. So, here in the open market operations, we have talked that when the Fed buys government bonds, the money supply increases. But when the money supply decreases, the Federal Reserve sells the government bonds. So, reserve requirement, sabi ko nga dito, it also influences the money supply with the reserve requirements. So, reserve requirements are regulation on the minimum amount of reserves the bank must hold against deposit. So, take a look at this minimum amount of reserves. Reserves, lahat ng financial institution, especially insurances, nagkakaroon ng minimum amount of reserve. Okay, so this is one of the factors na titingnan nyo if ever na credible bang pag-investa ng isang company. Okay? So, pag mas mataas yung reserve, mas okay na mag-invest doon sa isang company. So, same din dito sa banks. So, changing the reserve requirement. So, the reserve requirement is the amount of percentage of a bank's total reserves that may not be loaned out. So, here is the increasing the reserve requirement decreases the money supply, and decreasing the reserve requirement increases the money supply. So, these are inversely proportional with each other. So, how about the discount rate? So, discount rate, diba, parang pinag-aralan lang natin ng nakaraan, the future value of money and the present value of money. I think hindi pala yun dito. So, it's under the business finance kasi. So, yan. Pero alam nyo na yun kasi pinag-aralan nyo na rin yun sa accounting. So, the discount rate is the interest rate the Fed charges banks for loans. So, sabi dito, increasing the discount rate decreases the money supply. So, decreasing the discount rate increases the money supply. So, why? Diba? Siyempre, kapag yung discount rate mo is tumaas, diba? Konting na lang babayaran mo. So, ganun lang yan. Parang utang lang din yan. So, kapag nag-decrease naman yung discount rate, siyempre, mas madami pa rin yung babayaran mo. So, it increases the money supply. So, problems in controlling the money supply. So, ito yung mga, kahit sila yung regulatory body, sila yung nagdidictate ng regulations about money supply. So, nagkakaroon pa rin talaga sila ng mga problems. So, one of this is the control of money supply is not precise. Okay, so hindi talaga siya quantifiable in an exact or precise way. Then second, the Fed must wrestle with two problems that arise due to fractional reserve banking. So, ano to? So, the Fed does not control the amount of money that households choose to hold as deposit in banks. So, hindi na nila kaya yun that per household, no? Kailangan nilang i-control. So, hindi nila yun magagawa. And the Fed does not control the amount of money that bankers choose to lend. So, hindi rin nahawak yung decision ng mga bankers. So, next slide. So, in summary, no, ito lang naman yung pinag-aralan natin. The term money refers to asset that people regularly use to buy goods and services. So, it's an exchange between a buyer and a seller. And money serves three functions. Number 1, medium of exchange. Number 2, unit of account. And number 3, store value. Number 3, commodity money is money that has intrinsic value. So, example of this are gold, silver, and cigarettes. Fiat money is money without intrinsic value. Example of this one is currency and paper bills. And we have also, in our summary, the Federal Reserve. So, this is the central bank of the United States. This is the main bank of the global monetary system. So, actually, hindi lang US yung nire-regulate niya. Lahat na talaga. Okay? Even the other countries, they regulate the monetary system. And it controls the money supply through open market operations, changing reserve requirements, or the discount rate. Alright? So, and then, when bank loan outs their deposit, they increase the quantity of money in the economy because they are both recorded on both banks. And because the Fed cannot control the amount bankers choose to lend or the amount households choose to deposit in the banks, the Fed's control of money supply is imperfect. So, meaning there is no precise way in quantifying or controlling the money supply in the global, in our global world. So, this is the summary of the global monetary system. And this is the end of my presentation. So, we'll be back at our second session ha. So, bigyan ko kayo ng 15 minutes to break. So, darating tayo ng 7:30 ulit later. And I'll be sharing another live stream for a different topic. So, thank you, class. Break muna kayo ng 15 minutes. Ako din mag-break.